Hello everybody, how are we all doing today, or whenever you're watching this? So welcome back to the series where I rank every character's levels from Sonic Adventure 2. Before you continue with this video, I think it might be beneficial for you to go back and check out the first video I did, which is covering all of Sonic's stages. Since Shadow's gameplay is kind of supposed to mirror Sonic's in a way, I figured it might be smart to do his stages next. Actually, Sonic Adventure 2 is the game where Shadow makes his first appearance. So since this video series is all about Sonic Adventure 2, and since Shadow is such a big part of this story, I'd recommend you buckle up because we've got a whole lot of backstory to get through and we might be here a little while. But I promise it's for the sake of things making more sense. If you're only interested in the ranking part, I will put a little timestamp so that you can just skip over all my rambling. Anyway, Shadow the Hedgehog is first seen in Sonic Adventure 2 and Dr. Eggman says, "Hey, I've got nothing better to do. I'm gonna wake up this crusty hedgehog from a 50-year coma." Shadow was actually created by Dr. Eggman's grandfather, whose name was Gerald Robotnik. His goal in creating Shadow was to make what he considered to be the ultimate life form. By doing this, he wanted to try and find a cure for his granddaughter Maria Robotnik, who suffered from a life-threatening illness. He also wanted to try to discover the key to immortality. In the process of creating Shadow, he went through a couple different prototypes. Two of these prototypes are known as the Bio-Lizard and the Final Hazard. He eventually ended up deeming these prototypes way too dangerous and way too flawed. So basically, he went from almost recreating Jurassic Park to the final product being Shadow, who is much smaller and much more hedgehoggy. Gerald had created Shadow on an advanced research center known as Space Colony Ark. The Ark is where Gerald Robotnik continued his research on immortality, and he referred to his studies as a whole as Project Shadow. While this was taking place, him, Shadow, and Maria all shared a home on the Ark together. This caused Maria and Shadow to grow a strong bond over time, and the two of them considered each other their only friends. I know what you might be thinking. You might be thinking, okay, so this series about talking animals isn't gonna get any more complicated, is it? Well, you know what they say. You can't have a series about talking animals without having a fictional government agency to come along and mess everything up. And those people, who was all one of me, just right now, doesn't know just how correct they are. So this fictional government agency, known as GUN, and yes, that's what it's called, started becoming pretty skeptical of Gerald's research. They started to believe that Shadow and the immense amount of power he had was a threat. They demanded that Gerald shut down Project Shadow for good, and of course, Gerald refused. This caused them to take matters into their own hands, and they raided the Ark in hopes to shut the project down themselves. While this invasion was happening, Shadow and Maria tried to find their own way off the Ark, but eventually some GUN agents caught up to them. Instead of surrendering him, Maria was shot trying to protect Shadow. With the last of her strength, she trapped Shadow in a stasis tube and begged him to protect the planet that she always wanted to visit. She was able to send him to Earth before she kicked the bucket. When Shadow is eventually woken up by Dr. Eggman, he wakes up with a hazy memory. The last memories that he has are of Maria and the events that took place on the Ark. But instead, he believes that Maria wanted him to get revenge for what GUN did to her. After Dr. Eggman goes through a crisis because he mistook Shadow for Sonic, somehow, he expresses to Shadow his wish to take over the world. And then Shadow, even though their reasons are totally different from one another, he's like, okay, great, me too, when do we get started? In this game, Shadow introduces his special ability, which is known as Chaos Control. Chaos Control allows Shadow to warp time using the Chaos Emeralds. Now, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but it's said that Shadow wasn't originally programmed with Chaos Control. Maria's death sent Gerald Robotnik into a dark spiral. It's assumed that Gerald found Shadow's stasis pod on Earth and reprogrammed Shadow with the power of Chaos Control. Shadow's overall story in the game explores his desire to avenge Maria and destroy life on Earth. Shadow's ultimate goal is to collect all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds so that he can put them in something known as the Eclipse Cannon on the Ark. When all 7 of the Chaos Emeralds are put into the Eclipse Cannon, a timer will start before the Ark eventually explodes. While going around and carrying out all these different missions for Eggman, many people are mistaking Shadow for Sonic. This causes Sonic to constantly have the police and the law on his tail, because they believe that he's the one doing all these bad things, when in reality, it's Shadow. When they come together from their two separate stories, Sonic and Shadow end up fighting each other because Sonic's like, okay, this isn't cool, can you stop getting me arrested? And Shadow's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but you keep interrupting me, and that's starting to get me really mad, so stop. Eventually, when he does get all the Chaos Emeralds and finds himself on the Ark, Sonic and friends travel to the Ark to try and stop the explosion. After spending the whole entire time doing nothing of importance, Amy stumbles across Shadow, and after a talk that was as inspiring as early 2000s voice acting can make it, a memory was triggered in Shadow's brain that makes him remember what Maria actually wanted, and that was to protect the people of Earth. So basically, Shadow was a big jerk, all for nothing. But that's okay, because he spends the rest of the game dedicating his time to stopping the Eclipse Cannon by teaming up with Sonic and destroying the prototypes Gerald reprogrammed. This ends in Shadow's sacrifice to fulfill his promise to Maria and save the world. And that's when Shadow's character still had meaning before he became yet another victim of typecasting, but I will not talk about that today. That was all a lot, and I apologize. The time to rank stages has finally arrived, so I'll just go over the rest of the video layout from here. Alright, so just like with Sonic, I'll be ranking Shadow stages from my least favorite to my favorite. I will not be including anything from the final story or canon's core, and I will also not be including bosses. Finally, these are just my opinions, and we do not have to share the same thoughts or feelings. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the video, and let's get started on my least favorite Shadow stage. Even though Skyrail is my least favorite Shadow level, I don't necessarily think that it's a bad stage. The stage is pretty short overall, but I think that's where my problem lands with it. Even though it's a short stage, I personally don't think it's memorable enough to be as short as it is. I do really like the level design for this stage, and I like how it contrasts the more moody atmosphere of the other Shadow levels, but overall I just find myself being kind of bored when I play this stage. To me, it feels like just a bunch of rail grinding, and then the stage just kind of is over with. However, when it comes to these lists that I'm making for these levels, I gotta say that Skyrail is one of my least favorite levels. Now I know a whole bunch of people are probably gonna think that I'm crazy for putting this above Skyrail. This stage, with absolutely no doubt, is extremely infuriating, and those spinning tower things and I do not get along. The slightest miscalculated jump can be lethal in this stage, and I don't want to say that that's endearing, but it really sucks you into the stage and forces you to pay attention. And I would rather have that than just kind of aimlessly make my way through a level. Also, this isn't going to be the last time that I mention this in this video, but some of the themes in Shadow's stages hold some pretty deep stuff in them. I've played this stage over and over again thinking that the lyrics for the song was just a bunch of random sounds that the sound mixers didn't get a chance to use yet, but the lyrics actually represent Shadow's inner thought process. It's information about Shadow that seems like it would be so vital to the story, but you don't get that information from any cutscenes in the game. I actually think that's pretty clever on their part. I'm kinda sad that I didn't get an opportunity to focus on the soundtrack for this stage a little bit sooner. I was always so focused on not falling to Earth a million miles a minute. Radical Highway is Shadow's first stage, and right off the bat, it makes the experience of being able to play as Shadow extremely fulfilling. I feel as if this stage immediately sets the tone for Shadow, and shows just how badly he wants to carry out his revenge plan. The soundtrack for this stage radiates confidence. Also, the level design for this stage is incredible, in my opinion. This whole entire stage, from start to finish, just feels so smooth to play through. Radical Highway is not my personal favorite Shadow level, but I will not deny that it is definitely the most memorable of all of the Shadow stages. There's a sense of urgency that comes when you play this level, and that has nothing to do with the time limit very obnoxiously flashing in the corner. White Jungle is a way gloomier and a way darker stage than Sonic's Green Forest counterpart, making it feel a whole lot less joyful. When I talked about Final Chase, I brought up the soundtrack for the stage and talked a little bit about how it reveals some important information about Shadow's character. The same thing goes for the soundtrack in White Jungle. To summarize it as short as I can, the lyrics talk about Shadow's inner thoughts of doubt and confusion. I think that these lyrics express the first real pivotal turning point in Shadow's character. This is where he first starts to question himself, and when he first starts to worry about whether he's good enough to pull this off or not, and if this whole thing is even going to be good enough to avenge Maria, ultimately trying his best to push that fear away. Once again, I think it was extremely clever of the team to incorporate this kind of stuff into Shadow's story, because it gives him a type of complexity that you don't see in other characters. And it's all stuff that the player won't even originally notice unless they're paying really close attention. I think that it's powerful to incorporate those feelings while you're playing through the stage. If you go deeper than the surface level, this stage holds some of the biggest impact on Shadow's character, and definitely having the biggest impact on me while playing. And all of these things easily make it my favorite Shadow stage. If you made it till the end of the video, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you so much. I'm really excited to upload more of these in the future. Sonic Adventure 2 is one of my favorite games of all time, and it holds such a special place in my heart, and I really want to share that with the world. If you liked this video enough to leave a like and leave a comment, thank you. I appreciate it. I hope everybody is staying safe and healthy and doing the best that they can during these times. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.